The new Supreme Court term will be dominated by abortion rights. The court will hear arguments on a case that asks the justices to directly reconsider the landmark precedent in Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. Let's bring in law professor and ABC News Supreme Court contributor Kate Shaw for more on what's ahead. I guess, Kate, real quickly, I'd love to get your reaction to Lindsay's interview. What a spectacular sit-down and insight to a woman that has carried this secret for 4 decades.
Yeah, well, I very much look forward to watching the full interview, Kira. I have to say that, Norma McCorvey, the woman known as Jane Roe, herself was a fascinating figure who had many different phases of her life, was the face of Roe versus Wade, although obviously not using her own name, then became a sort of outspoken pro-life activist, then repudiated that position later in her life. So she herself had a life that sort of spanned multitudes from the perspective of, the sides in the abortion debate. And it sounds as though her daughter is having a similar experience and trajectory. There's a new book actually about the family Roe. So I look forward to hearing the interview. But it is striking that we are hearing now from this woman at the same time that the Supreme Court is taking up or beginning a term that will allow it to take up in the most serious way, I think, in 50 years, the future of the constitutional right to abortion first announced in Roe versus Wade.
I'll tell you what, I'll be reading that book as well. All right, let's begin with Mississippi, shall we, and talk about what's at stake there.
Sure. So that's the case that involves this full frontal challenge to Roe. So in 1973, the Supreme Court held that the decision whether to become a parent is so intimate and so important to the trajectory of one's life that it's part of the liberty protected by the Constitution, and government cannot control that decision. So despite many, many challenges to Roe over the last 50 years, the court has basically reiterated that core principle that government can't make the decision, only a woman can make that decision, at least until the point of viability, where a fetus could live outside the womb. And at that point, the government's interest in potential life is strong enough that it can prohibit abortion. So the law that Mississippi has passed, banning abortions after 15 weeks, flies in the face of Roe versus Wade. And so the court, when it decides that case, has either to strike down the Mississippi law, right, and reaffirm the right it announced in Roe, or uphold the Mississippi law and basically announce that the era of Roe versus Wade is over, and states can limit and even prohibit abortion much earlier than the point of fetal viability. So that would really change the degree to which the right to terminate a pregnancy or to continue with a pregnancy is a right that is protected by the Constitution. So that will be heard December 1st and probably decided closer to the end of the term. It's a big, certainly divisive case, so I imagine the justices will take their time deciding it.
Sure. And other major cases going on as the new session begins. Another one involving the right to carry handguns in public nationwide. What do you expect from the court's conservative majority on this?
Sure. So that's a case out of New York. And I think that, this newly constituted conservative court is very likely to find that this New York law that makes it very difficult to get a permit to carry a concealed weapon is inconsistent with the Second Amendment. And so I think the court is likely to strike that law down. If that happens, then not only the New York law, but state and local laws across the country that really restrict the ability to get permits to carry concealed weapons will be invalidated. And I think that could well lead to many, many more concealed weapons on the streets of places like New York City, where that carrying has long been very restricted. So this court has a strong, broad vision of the Second Amendment, and I think is very likely to take this opportunity to expand the Second Amendment right that the court announced in 2008, but hasn't really elaborated on in the intervening dozen years.
All right, these are two cases that are in the forefront that we're following. Any other big cases on the docket that you're interested in or you're watching as well?
There's one case the court hasn't yet agreed to take, but likely will, a case involving Harvard's affirmative action policies. So the court got a petition asking it to take that case, asked the Biden Justice Department to provide its views, but I expect that the court will agree to hear that case and will then hear it later this term. So that case will probably tell us the future of affirmative action in higher education. The court has narrowly allowed higher education to use race as one of many factors in making admissions decisions, but has been very closely divided on that question. And again, this new and newly conservative court may well find that any use of affirmative action is impermissible, at least in higher education. So that could be significant. And then there are a number of religious liberty and church-state separation cases the court is also slated to hear. So it's going to be a very, very big term.
Well, and that moves right into the national conversation we've been having for the past couple of years now. Supreme Court contributor Kate Shaw. Thanks so much, Kate.
Thank you, Kira.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.